Tribes that span Oklahoma have always had a significant impact on the state. Now, a new study shows just how big that impact is in dollars. More than $10 billion a year. Kyle Dean from the Oklahoma City University Meinders School of Business did the research, and I spoke with him about the findings. Kyle, your research indicates that tribes generate about $10 billion in Oklahoma's economy. How are they doing that?
Well, they have a variety of ways that they do that. Of course, everybody knows about gaming. That's a large source of their income. But they also have other business enterprises, a lot of retail enterprises, and they are diversifying into other types of enterprises such as professional services. In addition to that, a lot of these impacts come from the services they provide to tribal citizens. A lot of people don't realize that they provide medical care, they provide job training programs, they provide social services for their citizens that the taxpayers of Oklahoma do not have to fund.
What are we talking about in terms of jobs? How many jobs are involved in all of these enterprises?
Well, we estimated that directly the tribes employ about 54,000 people. Now, when you take into account the spillover impacts that occur as tribes purchase goods from other Oklahoma companies, we estimate the total employment that's supported by them, so they're 54,000 plus an additional 32,000 turns out to be about 87,000 once you take into account the rounding.
Are these primarily tribal members?
There's a variety. Of course, they employ tribal citizens. Tribes don't always necessarily employ their own citizens. They employ citizens from other tribes as well. But they also employ a large number of Oklahomans. And what's important to note is, the United States has been urbanizing for about a century now. And right now, the United States is well over 80% urbanized. A lot of these tribal jobs are in rural areas and are keeping rural economies going.
So that certainly helps the rural areas that do need help in this economy.
Oh, absolutely. If you look out in northeastern Oklahoma, they employ they employ many people in northeastern Oklahoma, and of course they export a lot of their gaming to residents of Kansas and Missouri. Same thing in southern Oklahoma. They employ a lot of people down in the Ada area, and then they export a lot of their gaming to residents of Dallas and members of Texas.
So what happens if other states establish casinos?
Well, it just depends. It depends on, the quality of those casinos, how much of a direct substitute they would be for our casinos. If they are seen as direct substitutes, then certainly they would probably pull some revenue from Oklahoma casinos.
In your study, how would you compare Indian industries and the overall impact of the Indian tribes in Oklahoma to other industries in the state?
Well, we looked at that. So if you took the entirety of the tribes and you classified them as an industry, their total direct output would rank them as the 9th largest industry in the state of Oklahoma. So they are very significant. We estimated that's about 7% of the overall production of Oklahoma companies is directly related to tribes.
How will this information be used?
Well, you got me there, Dick. I'm not the PR guy. I'm merely just a humble economist. But I suspect, the tribes, like anybody who has an impact study performed, they like to understand how their impacts affect not only their citizens, but people in the areas in which they operate. They also like to know the totality of their impacts. It's just sort of like a self-report card.
Do you see this impact growing?
I do see the impact growing. A lot of the tribes are already branching out into other types of productive activity. Several of the tribes produce goods and services in other states already. And of course, none of that was included in this study. This is purely Oklahoma impacts, and that's what makes it significant to Oklahomans.
Kyle Dean from the Meinders School of Business, thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
Good to have you here.